Patient experience. So this is when patient experience moved, we decided to create a different way of doing this. And so starting with data-driven insights into who the customers are, going through service design, and then I tell the system all the time, this is where I stop, right here. We're going to help get you to here. We're going to help you know what the customer wants, who they are and what they want. We're going to just help design a program that meets their needs. And when I say program, I mean there are behavioral pieces, there are specific training that is required that comes into the next phase. There are technology projects that are all about the experience. Seamless transitions is one of them, so that when you cannot leave one doctor's offices if you need an appointment with having an appointment in that other office. We make sure that happens, or we're going to. That's just one of many of the projects that we're taking on. Point is, learning and development has this, and delivery, I love it when a hospital CEO says to me, who owns the experience? I'm like, you do. You do. It's your hospital. I don't work there. Delivery of the experience relies on the people who work in the physician offices and the hospitals every day. It also relies on the maintenance of the website and the call center and all the other ways that we touch people. But delivery is everybody's responsibility. It's not Matt's responsibility. This is how we think about it. But I'm going to save the rest of the 5 minutes for any other questions that people have. These are the 4 things that we keep in mind inside of our group specifically. If any of them are most important, is think consumers first. But I'm a big fan of this. Large organizations like ours have a very low tolerance for failure. Large conservative organizations. But at least inside of our group, we have a very high tolerance for failure as long as it's something you can learn from. Validated learning, super critical to move things forward faster. Questions, wrapping up questions.
In terms of patients and the retention, what does that look like in your experience?
The primary metric that we're going to use to measure experience in the long term is Net Promoter Score, which is a single question that you ask your customers, which is, would you recommend Piedmont to your friends or family? It's a very simple question. It is a great measure of consumer loyalty and has been statistically linked to growth. We are also responsible for unique patient count inside our organization. We take responsibility for it, I should say. So if we're not growing unique patient count, then we're not serving the system well. So we don't have a good retention number yet, and part of that stems back to our lack of a fully functioning CRM.
Is the business model going forward to address some sort of risk?
No. Doesn't mean it won't. We won't at some point. It doesn't mean it won't be put on us by our friends in the federal government. But and I shouldn't say no as in never, right? We are going to participate in more programs that allow us to do that, yes. But we had an insurance company, and it's more complicated than just it didn't work, but ultimately it didn't work, and it doesn't exist anymore. And I don't think our team, after we wound that thing down, the executive team has no appetite to start another one right now. Yeah, that may change over time. I think right now, with the insurance company mergers that are being opposed but are still there, I think a lot of health systems like ours are as concerned about scale as we are anything else.
So Matt, you're talking to a group of people. Thank you. You're talking to a group of people who need to figure out how to sell technology for population health, which could certainly be in support of a consumer strategy, right? So what piece of advice would you give this group to think about as we try to figure out what's in your hearts and heads?
So we're not selling technology. We're selling results, right? health systems are big and lumbering, and at least in our part of the world, this population health mindset is relatively new. And population health as a discipline, pretty low on the list. I shouldn't say that. Let me say it differently. Let me say it differently. It's high on the list, but somehow we never get to it. Right? It's something we always talk about, but at the end of the day, when thinking like a business, we're still not at the point where it has enough of an impact on our business for us to be super serious about it. So it doesn't mean that we don't have people who care about it, but I told Ellen earlier, we don't even have like a designated leader inside our organization. Like, hey, you're responsible for population health, like as an executive, you. We don't have that person. So if that gives you any insight into where we are, where our heads are.
How many other companies are healthcare systems in Atlanta are in that same boat?
Oh, that's out. I mean, they may nominally have somebody who's responsible for it, but of the big ones, there's 4 big ones, I'd be shocked if any of them are any further along than we are. There are parts of the world that are much further. Because Atlanta is so fragmented, the health system market is so fragmented, it just comes slower, right? Like the more consolidated ones get there more quickly. And certainly, as all innovation, it seems, starts out west and sort of migrates over to the northeast and then trickles down to the south and then eventually makes its way over to Texas. It's true. It's totally true. Don't act like you don't know. Texas is still the land of the independent physician. Like getting those physicians employed by health systems is difficult out there.
So I asked Matt, I forget the words that I used, but I essentially asked him, like, do you get approached by a lot of technology companies trying to sell software and apps or whatever? And he's like, constantly.
Oh yeah, God, every day.
No idea who they are, what they want, why they're trying to sell to. It's free. You didn't say that,
I didn't, but I meant it.
You mentioned that you were interested in more data, like when you were talking about virtual visits.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of data would be really interesting to you?
Well, data that's interesting to me, maybe data that's not as, maybe different than other people. The funny thing is, we have most of the data that we need. It's how to derive meaning from it that is important. And I'm not in the quality business, which is where a lot of people's focus is on that particular subject of data. But for customers, I'm more concerned with how do we position ourselves to stay relevant. I need to know more about consumers' individual behaviors and how they, is access and convenience is going to continue to be the top thing. I'm convinced that we should be a retail company on that side of the business. And so how we design ourselves, and is that what people are looking for? It's what they say they're looking for now. Is it going to stay relevant in the future? I don't know.
Do you think all the programs and things you're talking about today give you extra leverage with payer communities?
Not yet. Not yet. I think it may generate a degree of respect, and it has more of an effect on how other systems view us, as we see a great deal of consolidation happening in our market. The virtual visits app in particular was a revelation to our friends at Athens Regional when they were making the decision. It's a signal to other people that we're thinking about the future differently, and that's attractive to a lot of health systems that are struggling, or it's funny, like with Athens, they weren't struggling, but they could see a future that didn't look great, and they said, you know what, we need to find some partners, people that we can share a common vision with. So I think that's where we see more effect than with payers.